Rafeef Ziadah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So you were just here on this panel with John McDonnell called The Economy for the Many. Mm-hmm. What does an economy for the many look like to you?
Well, it was a really lovely panel to be invited to because it allowed me and I think the audience to sort of step back and reflect on this slogan that everyone's been using around the many. And for me, the question was, well, who are these many that we're speaking about? Are we only speaking about people who live in one country? Or do we think more internationally? Are we thinking only about citizens, or do we want social and economic justice for everyone in a broader sense? And it was great. We were able to have that conversation. We spoke about austerity, anti-austerity, and migration, and how important it is to have a bold conversation around migration, not to let the right dictate how we view migrants, to sort of say these are deserving and these are undeserving, these are asylum seekers and these are economic survival migrants, to actually just smash that entire conversation and speak in terms of an internationalist working class with a sense of real solidarity that wants an economy that everyone can survive in and have basic things like healthcare and water, and that those things are human rights. They're not unimaginable to achieve.
You ended your talk with a really wonderful line that an economy for the many should be anti-racist, feminist and internationalist.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the time part of my frustration is we speak in beautiful terms about an economy for the many, but we're speaking about it just in this one country, and speaking about things like nationalizing and anti-austerity, which is all great and we need to do it, but we need to make that connection between why the UK economy functions in the way it does, the history of colonialism, genocide and slavery, and how that built a lot of the wealth that's in this country, and we need to reckon with that history. And we can't just, if we are truly going to speak about a just economy for the many, we need to have that internationalist perspective.
Do you have any ideas on what sort of a good immigration policy could look like?
I think membership of the Labour Party is really craving a radical and progressive immigration policy. And some of the things that came up on stage today were things like not needing recourse for funds, that everyone should be able to be funded, closing the damn detention centers as fast as we can because they're horrific and there are major human rights abuses going on there, but also thinking more deeply about migration and taking back the rhetoric that migrants are not the problem with this economy, that they're not the ones who caused this issue, and very boldly being anti-racist and anti-fascist. And I think the Labour membership is actually a bit further on this question than we think, and let's have the debate. The most important thing that came out of this panel is let's actually have the debate on migration. Let's not be shy. People ask the question, well, will we lose the election if we speak about migration? And I think it's the exact opposite, actually. People are expecting leadership. They don't want us, or they don't want the Labour Party to be tail-ending. And I think it really came through in everyone who spoke tonight.
Where do you stand on things like open borders or even no borders?
I mean, I am a refugee myself, and I have worked with refugees and asylum seekers in multiple countries now, people leaving places like Afghanistan or Iraq or Palestine. And you really see the damage that borders cause. And to think that we conceive of each other as human beings simply through a piece of paper called a passport, and that's how we think someone is human or not, is completely absurd to me. I do think more and more people are starting to speak in the language of no one being illegal, and I genuinely believe that. I don't believe a human being can be illegal. In most cases, what activists in the Global South say is that the border crossed us, so we didn't cross it. And it's very important to keep those things in mind as we think of progressive migration policies.
Right. And at the Labour's International Social Forum where we met, you said, you know, there already are open borders for capital, open borders for those who can afford to buy citizenship. So why not extend open borders?
Exactly. Because essentially what we have around right now that's working is that capital can move freely. If you are rich, you can buy a visa, the so-called golden visas. You can settle wherever you like. Really, the people being held behind are ones who are trying to survive poverty, trying to survive the effects of climate change. It's a social sorting process of who's allowed to move and who's not allowed to move. And it's a racist and classist social sorting process. And if one wants to call themselves radical or speaks of an economy for the many, well, who's in your many, and should it not include everyone?
Do you have any thoughts on how the progressive movement can get into a position of political power?
One thing I think we're thinking through is not to limit ourselves and our radical imaginaries only in terms of the election. Because I feel like what's happening in the world transformed and in other spaces is that people are looking to build a sustainable movement that is radical but also continues and does not just depend on elections. It would be wonderful if the elections happen. I think, again, bold policies, not shying away from questions on immigration, not shying away from these issues is really, really important. But I'm also interested in how do we sustain this past elections, through elections, and regardless of who's in the Labour Party leadership as well. Because at the end of the day, our communities are going to need to survive, and this crushing brutality that we're all facing consistently.
Rafeef, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant.